Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is honestly one that I didn't see myself making, and that is because this is an unusual situation for me. But recently I very nearly fell victim to the consumerism trap, and what I mean by that is I very nearly got suckered in to buying a new car. Now, I know we've all been there, we see the car that we want, we've kind of fantasized about buying it and driving it and what it would look like. And yeah, I kind of got suckered into that. And I was probably a phone call away from actually swapping my car for a new car. And I just about stopped myself. And that is what this video is going to be all about. So I guess let's just get down to it. So recently, I have had this thought in my mind that I would love to swap one of my existing cars for an electric car, and more specifically the Ioniq 5, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. It's just a car that I've loved for a number of years now, ever since it first came out in about 2021. I see them driving around, and I just think, God, I would love one of those. And I started looking. Now, the cars that I've got are two older cars. I've got a Hyundai i30 and a Toyota Yaris. Both of them are about 10 years old. So, nothing special, but they are pretty good cars. Never let us down, never caused us any problems. And to be honest, never really had to spend any money on them. We own them outright. So that is a fantastic plus to keeping these cars. And ultimately one of the things that kind of stopped me buying the new one. But I guess why I didn't get the new car is because fundamentally it goes against everything that I believe and kind of the values that I try and live my life with. And that is really, not succumbing to kind of spur of the moment decisions, not just splashing the cash because I can. More so, I like to spend with intention and for things I need, less so on the things I want. Although obviously I treat myself and, my wife treats herself, things like that. But, for a car, that is a big purchase. And, we had the cash in the bank, in the savings. And I guess that is probably what started to, get the cogs whirring in my mind that, I could swap my car. This is a real thing. I started looking, I started seeing some used ones, a couple of years old, for pretty much the money that I had in my account. So I was like, this could happen. So I went down to the dealership local to me, which again helped. Started talking to someone about one of the cars that I'd seen. Next thing you know, I'm in the car, I'm test driving it. The guy's giving me all the spiel about, I could have it for $200 a month or $250 a month and all these different deals that they can offer you. And to be honest, everything, how these things work. I mean, if you've ever bought a car and kind of gone to a dealership and had these conversations, you kind of know what is said and the way they kind of sell it to you. And it sounds great. And in the moment, I guess I was falling for it. I was being suckered in. Because I'm thinking about myself driving this car and thinking, God, this would be a dream to get this car. But somewhere along the way, I had a conversation with my wife, and we kind of just brought it all back down to earth a little bit, because I probably was up in the clouds a little bit. And we started saying, well, is this really what we want to spend our money on? We've got a big mortgage, which at the time we were having this conversation, the balance of our mortgage is about £192,000, something like that. So it's a pretty big mortgage. We've got another loan, which was for a kitchen renovation we did. Again, that is a 0% loan, but it ultimately is still a loan, and it's a payment that comes out of my account every month. So, I hate adding extra payments to my monthly outgoings. I do absolutely everything I can to reduce them and have as little outgoings as possible. So again, buying this car, although I could have paid for it in cash, I probably would have gone down the monthly route. So that is another £200 or £300 that has got to come out my monthly account. And I didn't like the sound of that. But as I say, I was talking to my wife and we started talking about, where do we want to be? Where are we heading? Finance wise, goal wise. And ultimately, we kind of brought it back down to what we both feel is like our values for this type of thing. And for us, as much as we would love a new car, and we both said we would, we felt that right now it is not the thing that we should be prioritizing. And realistically, if we're gonna spend that cash, we should spend it in a more, thoughtful manner and something that's going to help us, push us forward, pay down debts, things like that. So ultimately, we actually decided not to go through with the car purchase, and we used that money, almost the exact same amount of money we would have spent on the car. We paid off 10% of our mortgage. So we paid off roughly 18,500 straight off the mortgage, and that roughly reduced it by 10%. And now our balance is somewhere in the region of like 174,000, something like that. And, ultimately that has brought that balance down by quite a large amount. And that's what we settled on. But for a couple of weeks, I was so very nearly suckered into buying a new car. And I never thought I would be in that position where I would be falling for that, if you know what I mean, the kind of sales tactics and things like that. But without a doubt, I was. And I just wanted to talk about it really and just show, it's very easy to find yourself in these positions where, a dream car, something like that, a dream holiday, different things, they kind of catch your eye. And before you know it, everything you believe and everything the way you live your life and the things you value, it can go out of your head and you kind of lose track of that. And you just become very tunnel vision on this one thing that you're trying to get or trying to buy. But I think it's important sometimes to kind of bring yourself back down to earth and just really think about, is this the right thing for you right now? Now, I'm not saying I'm never going to change my car. I am absolutely going to change my car in the future. There's no doubt about that. But right now, is that the thing I should be spending my money on? And I decided, no, it's not. As I said, I've got 2 existing cars. They've never let us down, never caused us a problem. And, touch wood, that will carry on. They're not the most fancy cars or anything like that. No one's going to, turn their head and look as I drive past. Do you know what I mean? But that is not ultimately what I care about. And I think the conversation with my wife when we were having it was a reminder of that really, that, I care a lot more about living the life that we want to live, a comfortable life where our expenses are as low as we can reasonably keep them. And to, when I'm spending money, I want to spend it intentionally on things that matter to me and are kind of in line with my values. And ultimately making these spur of the moment decisions like splashing, nearly £20,000 on a brand new car, as much as it would have been fantastic, it just isn't the right thing to do for me personally. But I can absolutely see why people do get kind of suckered into these things. And, once you've signed on the dotted line for that, 4 or 5 year payment plan or whatever, it can be quite difficult to get out of something like that. So it really is something you have to put some thought into. And I guess, a lot of people don't. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad ultimately now I'm sitting here now and I haven't bought that car. But it's something I wanted to share on the channel because I guess everybody finds themselves in a position like this sometimes. And, I guess peer pressure and things like that. I go to work and a lot of people in my office, they drive really nice cars and things like that. And I don't know, there is an aspect of that where you think, well, should I be doing that? And should I have a nicer car and, upgrade my lifestyle and things like that? But as I said, the conversation with my wife kind of brought me back down to earth and thought, you know what? No, that isn't where my values are. That's not where I see our lifestyle. And I don't know. I don't know whether you'll even understand where I'm coming from. This is just how I feel, and I'm kind of just putting it out on camera. But, you know, let me know down in the comments what you think, whether you think I've done the right thing, the wrong thing, whether you understand what I'm saying, or whether I'm just rambling and it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it today and just put that out there. That I think sometimes it's important to understand that, you know, just because you can buy something doesn't mean you necessarily should. Equally, some people will say you only live once, and really you should go out and get that car if you want that car, if you can afford it. But I don't know, there's something that just didn't feel quite right about it right now, and that is why ultimately I didn't go through with it. But it was a funny thing to experience and to go through that whole process of, you know, reserving the car, test driving the car, going through that whole thing of, you know, nearly buying it, almost a phone call away, really. Ultimately, in the end, I actually made the phone call to the dealer, but I had paid to reserve the car. I had to ask them for that back, the deposit, and they did. They gave it me back. They did, you know, they didn't kind of quibble about that or anything. They were good. So it didn't cost me anything. But, you know, it just shows how close I got to potentially splashing cash on a car, which now I think about it, you know, it definitely feels like the wrong thing to do. But in the moment, it kind of felt like the right thing to do. So, yeah. But anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. I just wanted to make a video and just kind of put my thoughts out there on this. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you think. Please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button if you enjoyed this content. And I will catch you guys in the next one.